All right. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the American Association of University Women of Massachusetts, it's my pleasure to welcome you all to our program, Equity in 1881, Equity in 2021. I am Christina Ajemian, and Catherine Honey and I are co-presidents of AAUW Massachusetts. I'm also a member of the Bridgewater Communities for Civil Rights, a social justice organization dedicated to making our town a welcoming and inclusive community. And I am president of the Taunton area.
Chris, you muted yourself. You muted. Okay.
How long have I been muted? Shall I start again?
No, you're all set.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened. Well, anyway, we welcome representatives of businesses, community organizations, the public sector, schools, and AAUW to our conference today. We are excited to welcome AAUW members and supporters who are joining us from 15 states from across the United States: Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Indiana, Illinois, Louisiana, Maine, Missouri, North Carolina, New Hampshire. You notice how I said that, New Hampshire, Vermont, Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, and Massachusetts, and we welcome our friends in Nigeria. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping details to share. You are welcome to stay on video if you wish, but all attendees will be muted. And please use the chat for questions and comments of the panelists. Depending on time, we will share as many of those as we can with the audience. A resources list of AAUW programs and initiatives, as well as contact information for those groups, businesses, and organizations supporting us today will be available through the chat. AAUW membership information can also be found in the resources list. It is important for us to get your feedback as we go forward with plans for programs in 2022. So please complete the brief follow-up survey, which will be sent to you early next week. The title of our program today is, as I said, Equity in 1881, Equity in 2021, the factors that advance equity for all. As a member of AAUW in 2021, I believe that we must strive for equity for all: men, boys, women, girls, people of color, Indigenous people, and the LGBTQ+ community, because it is fair and just. But how do we define equity in this 21st century world? I have seen a helpful image, maybe you have too, of a group of people lined up, all trying to look over a fence where opportunity awaits. But some are shorter than others and need a step stool to see those opportunities over that barrier. Equity requires that those who need a step stool are not denied one. What are the step stools? Those skills necessary to achieve success and financial security in 2021 and beyond. When AAUW was founded, as you'll hear more about later, education was the pathway to opportunities for women. We can all agree that education is still vital. But as we discovered during the COVID shutdown in 2020, a working familiarity with technology was an absolute requirement for the young and the not so young, to teach and be taught, to confer with healthcare providers, to check in on family and friends, to get a vaccine. All that and more required a working level of digital literacy, whether you were 5 or 75 years old. A year ago, if you had asked me if I considered myself a STEM person, I would most definitely have said no. My keyboarding skills are pretty basic. I was never that good at math, and I struggled through high school chemistry. I'm a humanities person, a lover of languages, literature, the arts. Take me to an art museum, not a science museum. My brain doesn't work that way. That is what I might have said until 2020. Since becoming co-president of AAUW-MA with Catherine Honey in the middle of the pandemic, I have learned how to navigate Zoom, how to manipulate a relational database, how to communicate with scores of people, and how to set up a virtual conference. Like many of you, I have stepped up my STEM skills. And today we will hear from equity-minded speakers and panelists with experience in those skills, those factors such as STEM literacy and leadership development, that open up opportunities and support advances in equity for all in 2021. And now it's my pleasure to say a few words about Patricia Fay Ho, who will introduce our distinguished speakers this afternoon. Patricia Fay Ho has worked in significant leadership positions with nonprofit organizations, and presently she's on the board of Wellspring House and Voices Against Injustice on the North Shore of Massachusetts. In her professional life, Patricia was a teacher trainer, a gifted education specialist, and the director of a teacher resource center. Patricia is well known to members of AAUW because she has served as national president of AAUW, board chair of the organization, president of AAUW Massachusetts, and president of the North Shore branch in Massachusetts, where she maintains her membership. Patricia, I'll leave it to you. I think you need to unmute yourself, Patricia.
Okay, hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. It really is a pleasure to be celebrating AAUW's 140th anniversary, but you know, it's not just a celebration of the legacy of a trailblazing organization, but also of the achievements of women in their ongoing struggle for equity. So you all know that in 1881, when young women were discouraged from seeking further education, equity included access to collegiate study, not only for Ellen Swallow Richards and Marion Talbot at MIT, but also for all the women seeking the power of knowledge as gateway for self-fulfillment and self-sufficiency, to move beyond the status of few rights, few protections, and limited opportunities. And so during the next 140 years, amid struggle, setback, and success, AAUW, the organization founded by Swallow Richards and Talbot, would prove that women could achieve whatever their aspirations when given equitable opportunity. Do you notice that equity is our favorite word? The longevity and impact of an organization, we know, would depend on its relevance to changing socioeconomic and demographic environments. And so during this time of COVID pandemic, crushing economic stress and institutionalized inequities, AAUW is committed to addressing systemic racism and discrimination against traditionally marginalized groups. We work to guarantee equality, individual rights, and social justice for a diverse and inclusive society. And so you know that AAUW continues to be a passionate champion for access to education and training through our fellowships and grants to women scholars, through our advocacy for protection against sexual harassment and predatory student loans, through support for community colleges and young student leaders, and our ongoing struggle to preserve Title IX's level playing field. We commit to achieving economic security for all women through our advocacy and research, and we're very proud of our public policy priorities. AAUW continues to press for pay equity for all women, particularly women of color, access to higher paying STEM fields, and the ability to negotiate for fair salaries and job advancement. And so, over the years, in our legislative campaigns, AAUW's persistent lobbying in Washington and at the grassroots level has resulted in advances for equal pay, Title IX protections, paid family and medical leave, affordable childcare, voting rights and civil rights, and reproductive health care choices for women, all really relevant and ongoing through today. So we speak of champions and heroines, and we are immensely proud to present our next two speakers, women of power and influence throughout their lives, working on behalf of social justice and equity for all. We are pleased to welcome Gloria Blackwell as the newly announced AAUW Chief Executive Officer. Gloria's AAUW accomplishments have included management of the highly esteemed Fellowships and Grants Program, awarding $70 million over these years, leadership in signature programs, Work Smart, Start Smart, salary negotiations training, STEM Ed for Girls, and pay equity initiatives. My most memorable interactions with Gloria were at the United Nations when she represented AAUW at the Biennial Commission on the Status of Women conferences. With her Peace Corps service and her work at the Institute of International Education, Gloria has always been committed to the empowerment of all women and girls globally. And on November 17th, Gloria will be hosting a conversation with the AAUW Distinguished Alumna, former International Fellow, and a remarkable trailblazer, the Director General of the World Trade Organization. So with great pride, welcome, Gloria, and congratulations.
Thank you so much, Patricia, for that very, very warm welcome. And hello, everyone. I certainly have many, many fond memories of you, Patricia, as well. And I am still doing AAUW's work at the United Nations. I'm just really thrilled to be here with everyone for this special event. And I'm very just happy to see the speakers that are listed here. As AAUW's newly appointed CEO, I'm incredibly excited to take the helm of AAUW as we celebrate 140 years of advancing equity for women and girls through research, education, and advocacy. AAUW really has been uniquely positioned as a leader in eliminating barriers and opening doors for women since 1881. Pretty much longer than anyone else, at least as far as I know. And our strengths, as Patricia noted, really do include teaching women and their communities how to advocate for themselves and for others, how to productively engage with their employers, how to expand their knowledge and career skills to build both their personal and their professional networks. So the work that AAUW does today and the impact that we bring are as important as ever. So I'm proud to represent AAUW's 170,000 members, supporters, and donors, our 1,000 local branches, and our 800 college and university partners. And like any newly minted CEO, I'm taking a pretty broad look at AAUW, at the full landscape of AAUW, looking for opportunities to listen and connect and learn more about our incredibly complex organization. My goal is for AAUW to leverage our incredible success in order to grow our impact and our audiences and our reach. It's incredibly gratifying to see how Massachusetts and all of the AAUW states really are working to address the key priorities of our strategic plan and our mission, as well as having a positive impact on advancing equity for girls and women. So I thank everyone who is on this important event for everything that you do for AAUW. Our strategic priorities of education and training, leadership, and economic security are really the pillars that define AAUW's work. And they play an important role, particularly as we are navigating the ongoing pandemic, and the challenging landscapes of education and our workplaces. As we listen to the needs of women, especially those who are disproportionately impacted by unfair practices and policies, our impact continues to expand. So here's a quick snapshot of some of our key areas of accomplishment. Our award-winning Work Smart salary negotiation training, which actually included, if some of you may know, a 5-year partnership with the mayor's office in Boston that trained over 10,000 participants in salary negotiation, has grown immensely through partnerships with historically Black colleges and universities, minority serving institutions, and women's colleges, reaching nearly 180,000 participants. During the pandemic, our pivot to more online career and skill building workshops garnered over 40,000 registrants and has been a catalyst to ensure that we are meeting women's and girls' needs in new and innovative ways. So, despite working remotely, the pandemic has not held AAUW back. As a matter of fact, we piloted 3 new programs in the past year. The Social Change Ambassador Program through our Equity Network, STEM Ed for Girls, a high school STEM program focusing on girls in grades 9 through 12 and their caregivers, as well as Money Smart, a new financial literacy program. Through the National College Conference for College Women Student Leaders, we continue to prepare over 900 women from 300 campuses nationwide to become leaders and advocates in their educational, personal, and professional spaces. Our Legal Advocacy Fund continues to support women in their cases to fight workplace discrimination, Title IX violations, and pay inequity. But as we all know, advocacy has always been key in our fight for women's rights. This past year, AAUW members and supporters sent over 62,000 letters to elected officials urging immediate action on critical policy areas such as COVID relief, paid leave, voter access, and other policy priorities of AAUW that will serve to change the landscape of equity for women and girls. But of course, our foundation is education. Started right here in Massachusetts with a group of 17 women graduates, and we continue our groundbreaking efforts in support of women's education that began in 1888 with our generously endowed Fellowships and Grants Program. This year alone, AAUW has provided $5 million to 260 women scholars, as well as community-based programs advancing education and equity for girls and young women. And since we're talking about AAUW's history today, I'm very pleased to share that earlier this week in DC, I was a special invited guest and presenter at an event that celebrated the centennial of Marie Curie receiving the funding to purchase the gram of radium for her important research. It was hosted by the Curie Institute in Paris and welcomed by the French ambassador at the embassy in Washington, D.C. I had the opportunity to talk about AAUW's role in galvanizing women in support of the Marie Curie Radium Fund, which not only allowed her to purchase that gram of radium, but as many of you know, the fundraising was so successful that the excess funds eventually became a part of AAUW's endowment. And we have been awarding a Marie Curie Fellowship for over 50 years. So it was a very important opportunity for more people to learn about the important work that AAUW has been doing in STEM for more than a century. And as Patricia mentioned, also related to our fellowships, I really do hope that you can join us on November 17th for our national 140th anniversary celebration, in which we have the opportunity to share a conversation with the 2021 AAUW Alumni Recognition Awardee, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who is the Director General of the World Trade Organization. In the midst of COP26, the UN Climate Conference, Dr. Okonjo-Iweala took the time out because she is so appreciative of AAUW, the fellowship, and what it meant to her incredible career. So I hope you will join us. I'm very excited to be here and to share AAUW's work, and obviously to move forward with the mission of AAUW as CEO. AAUW's collective work that we do nationally, at the state level, and locally is what really makes us unique. And it's provided deep and lasting contributions to closing the gender pay gap and all gender gaps. If the pandemic has shown us anything, it's shown us that the world can't wait any longer for a more equitable society for women. And AAUW will continue to be a leader nationally and locally and through our many important coalitions. I'm looking forward to partnering with all of you on this incredible journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gloria. And what do you see for AAUW's future as we move forward and as we evolve with the times?
Thank you. So AAUW has always been speaking out and doing work on pertinent issues of the time, right? And so the work that we do continues to leverage on all of the successes that we've had and listening to what women need at specific times. And so, as we talk about a more inclusive AAUW, as we talk about expanding in ways that bring AAUW's work and programs to more women and girls, the future really is about ensuring that we are reaching out and expanding and listening to all women and girls, expanding and broadening our work in all communities, and making sure that we don't miss an opportunity to let people know that AAUW is always there fighting for them. When I think about the ways in which AAUW has already expanded our work through Money Smart this year, the way that we, went to the people who needed our STEM work the most. We specifically targeted communities for STEM ed for girls, highly populated with African American and Latinas, so that we have more of an opportunity to inspire them and provide information to their caregivers that they haven't always been privy to. The work that we are doing at the United Nations with the Commission on the Status of Women, as well as our international fellowships alumni who span more than 150 countries, will definitely be expanding as we move forward. We're taking a really close look at our AAUW alumni, seeing them more as an asset that can assist AAUW in the ways that we are seeking to eliminate discrimination and gender barriers. And so, there's so many opportunity. There's so many new partners who are seeking out opportunities to work with AAUW. And I'm just excited about the fact that our work in education and training, leadership, and women's economic security is really getting to the heart of what women and girls really need, and also what our society really needs to move forward in a more equitable way.
Thank you, Gloria, and thank you for being a bold, persistent, persevering leader, for working with us to bring AAUW ever forward, and for working on behalf of women and girls. All best wishes and good luck, and we'll join you at the National 140th Anniversary. Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. And again, thank all of you for everything that you do on behalf of AAUW. It's really incredibly appreciated. And you're the ones that make AAUW who we are. So thank you.
Thank you. And we have another champion, another trailblazer, another bold woman, and that is Suffolk County District Attorney Rachel Rollins, who is the Chief Law Enforcement Officer for Boston, Chelsea, Revere, and Winthrop. She is the first woman elected as district attorney in Suffolk County and the first woman of color ever elected DA in Massachusetts. Since taking office, DA Rollins has focused on the most serious and violent crimes and has implemented humane policies that no longer discriminate, no longer criminalize mental health issues, substance use disorders, and disparities in income level and immigration status. Her precedent-setting initiatives have included establishment of a discharge integrity team to help investigate officer-involved shootings and allegations of excessive force. She created an integrity review bureau that reviews claims of unconstitutional, unethical, and unjust convictions and sentencing disparities. Over 240 years of wrongful convictions have been overturned. Before DA Rollins' professional career as attorney and counsel, she fought for compliance with Title IX regulations regarding women's sports teams at UMass Amherst and was able to regain her scholarship. We are also proud that Rachel Rollins is a past AAUW Selected Professions Fellow. Welcome, District Attorney Rollins. We are so privileged to have you join us.
Thank you so much. And I obviously care deeply about this organization. I'm sitting in a car on a college visit with my daughter, an official NCAA visit at the University of Virginia. And I just left all of these coaches because I said, I have to speak to these amazing women. So I apologize for my background. You guys are worth way more than sitting inside of an Impala, I think I am in, but here are my remarks and I'd love to answer questions afterwards. So you've heard I've had the honor of carrying the title first throughout much of my career and in several positions working within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I'm the first woman to ever be elected district attorney in Suffolk County, which includes Boston. I'm the first woman of color to ever lead a district attorney's office anywhere in Massachusetts. Earlier in my career, I was either the first woman or the first person of color to be the general counsel or chief legal counsel of the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, the MBTA, and Massport, which, if you guys don't know what that is, if you've flown into Logan Airport, that's one of the things that Massport owns in the Conley Container Terminal, as well as we are the property owner of much of the seaport area. Before I held any of those titles, though, before I even went to law school, I was a student who took a stand against my university when they wrongfully discriminated against female student athletes. That experience of being part of a group of young women using the power of the law and, quite frankly, Title IX to protect our rights was an amazingly powerful experience and completely changed my career trajectory. I was a student athlete at UMass Amherst. I had a lacrosse scholarship. I would have never expected that sports would guide me into a career of law. After my freshman year up at UMass, we had a successful lacrosse season. Our lacrosse team wasn't even fully funded. So we had approximately 15 women on the team, but we only had about 3 full scholarships out of those 15. The same thing was true, I believe, with the women's volleyball and women's tennis teams. We were Division I athletes, but we were not fully funded. They only had about 3 full scholarships on their teams as well. Our men's football team, on the other hand, had 75 full scholarships scholarships for completely mediocre at best men playing in Division I football. They are still not very good many, many decades later, but that's another meeting that we will have. But not a single scholarship was cut from those 75 men's football players. And they cut 3 entire teams of women. Now, very truthfully, my first question was, are you honoring my scholarship? And to the credit of UMass Amherst, they did. So I was told I had a full, scholarship to continue my studies. And, for the first 6 months, I was overjoyed because I no longer had to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and pool run or sprint or do that. But very quickly, I learned how much more sports gives you than just the ability to win or lose, right? The wonderful mental health release that you receive, the physical activity, the camaraderie, all of the life skills you learn from sports, I was missing. And I met other women on lacrosse, volleyball, and tennis who were feeling the same way. We asked for a meeting with our athletic director, who had no time for us. We got a lawyer, and miraculously, he had time. And so what was done was a demand letter was sent that attached a copy of a Title IX lawsuit that said, if you don't meet our demands or meet with our lawyer, we will be filing this in court and moving forward. And as a result of that, UMass Amherst did the right thing and reinstated all 3 teams. So it was an incredibly moving and valuable lesson about the power of speaking up and advocacy and using the law, the power of women for me. It leveled the playing field, it corrected an injustice, and that power to help people and communities who have no other recourse is what drew me to pursue the law. And usually the story ends there and people are like, oh my God, that's amazing. The real end of the story is that for 2 years, I hadn't worked out at all. And I got a call and they said, yeah, remember when we told you we were going to pay for your 4 years of college? Well, now you have a team and you are in a Division I program and you have 4 weeks and you're going to have a full season. And so we were playing Maryland, Yale, like these are excellent schools that we were playing. And we had me and not a single other athlete. So we had to find intramural players. We went to the track team to find people that were fast. We went to field hockey, and our coaches were a men's soccer coach and a women's field hockey coach. And I had to just, explain like men's soccer and women's field hockey doesn't equal women's lacrosse, but we'll take them. I had won a national championship in high school in lacrosse, and we had never had a losing season. And I went to captaining the last 2 years of our UMass lacrosse team. And in our first year, we did not win a single game. And we lost, and these were not barn burners. We lost by 15, 16, 17 goals. And I like to tell people, it's really easy to be a great team player when you're winning. I want to see who you are when things are hard. I want to see who you are when things are dismal. And what was beautiful about that experience for me was it taught me character. And it taught me that those are the experiences that build leaders. We learned to redefine what victory was. We knew we weren't going to win, but we said, okay, Scotty Robinson is averaging 11 goals a game. We're keeping Scotty to 5 goals this game. We're working on our defense. We're doing that. And of course, we were also trying to win, but we knew that they had 3 All-Americans on a team. So what are our small victories? And that experience of getting our team reinstated, of losing every game, of having to put on a face and lead these young women who none of them were paid to be there. They showed up to keep our team going. And although in the record books regarding wins and losses, the women's lacrosse team at UMass Amherst right now are champions. And but for what we did back in 1990 and 91, none of them would have been there then. So I went to law school as a result of that. And I have working class parents but for the AAU Selected Professions Fellow in the field of fellowship in the field of law, I might not have continued law school because I needed money to help me pay for it. So, I know there might be some people that are unhappy with the work that I'm doing, senators from Republican states, possibly, if we were going to say that. But thank you, AAUW, for believing in me when I was a law student, for giving me funding and allowing me to continue on my trajectory towards advocacy, towards empowerment, towards being a proud feminist in every single thing I do, and not silently backing women, but proudly backing women in every single job that I have. You opened doors for me and gave me opportunities. And for that, I am abandoning my daughter at the University of Virginia with a track team right now to thank you personally and to answer whatever questions I can. And I will end by saying, the person I am, the athlete I thought that was going to be the highest point in my life. And it was at that time. But what's so beautiful about life is the same butterflies I got before, in high school, soccer, basketball, and lacrosse games, and in college, basketball and lacrosse games. I feel that same way before we are about to try a case, or when we say, no, we're suing ICE, because I want Massachusetts to be the first state that says ICE should not be arresting people in courthouses when they're going to get restraining orders. People should go to courthouses and churches and schools and hospitals and feel comfortable being honest about what they need. It's that same passion and drive that I used to feel as an athlete that I now feel as an advocate. And I believe the sky is the limit for what we're going to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights and experiences. I noticed that your bio begins with the phrases help heal, be brave, serve humbly, respect everyone, work smart. And were these the guidelines that you have always followed for all of your work on behalf of social justice in the criminal justice field, in law enforcement, in the judiciary? What else can you tell us about yourself and what impels you?
Those core values are what I created when I became DA, but they have been inside of me. If we think about what drives us, what we want to do and be as people, you don't have to be a lawyer, but just what are we doing? I just turned 50 and I am a survivor of breast cancer. So I feel like every minute I have, I want to be the best that I can possibly be. I don't want to waste any time because none of us is promised anything, right? And remember, I'm the chief law enforcement officer in Suffolk County in Boston. Usually when people see me on TV, unfortunately, it's at a homicide scene. And even people who are assuming a lot of risk, nobody wakes up and says, today's the day I'm going to die, right? Like, so I felt like, how can I synthesize and distill this down into just words that are core values so that my 350 staff, when I won my election and beat somebody from inside of their office, soundly, to say, what are we going to do to change the culture here? These are just words that are on every piece of our letterhead that remind people about the important work that we're doing. So what drives me is, my family, my daughter, my parents, right? I am, like all of us, I'm complex, like many of us. And I have family members that are veterans and members of law enforcement. I have a deep respect for them. I also have family members that have struggled with mental health issues and substance use disorder. And I think you can be both of those things. You can deeply respect law enforcement, but hold them to an incredibly high standard, as we should be. And you can love people and not agree with the choices they make, or the circumstances they continue to put themselves in. And you can say out loud, you know what? Nobody said I'm going to hold you accountable for your breast cancer. They said, let's get you all the treatment you need and get you better. Let's start using those words about mental health, about substance use disorder, right? And let's also have the tough conversations. With the whitening of the opioid crisis, right now, all of a sudden, people recognize that it's a public health issue. But guess what? When it was the 80s and 90s and they looked like me, and it was crack cocaine and heroin, nobody cared. And they threw everyone in jail. And now we are dealing with the rippling effects of that. We can still love each other and support each other when we have really tough conversations. So those are the things that drive me. I did just get an alert that I have low battery, so I want to make sure if there's other questions, that's fine, but I don't want to be cut off from you guys. So can I answer anything else?
No, we're going to let you go because we realize how important it is for you and your daughter. But we thank you so much, DA Rollins, for your persistence and your championship.
Scholarships. Keep giving scholarships.
Okay.
Keep giving scholarships.
And
I'm
Gloria hears that, right, Gloria?
Yes, Gloria, I would not be
Absolutely.
a lawyer. I would not be a lawyer if it wasn't for you. And I love the little scholarships. We'll take the 500, the 1,000, but to have substantial scholarships that deeply impact people's ability to move forward, I would not be a lawyer if it wasn't for you guys. You can't be the DA without being a lawyer. And when I will be, and I will be, the first Black woman to be the United States Attorney for the District of
Yes.
Massachusetts, I
Yes.
am deeply grateful to you, and I want to come back, not in a car, and speak to you then, and dressed much better. But thank you. Keep up the great work, guys. I appreciate you.
Thanks so
Bye.
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Patricia. And I want to add our sincere thanks to CEO Gloria Blackwell and to Suffolk County District Attorney Rachel Rollins for being with us today. What an inspiring presentation by both women. We've learned about the opportunities offered by AAUW, as well as about the passion and commitment it takes to work towards justice and equity for everyone. Thank you very, very much. And I love the concept of sports building character and leadership, and more than just winning. That's I think says something that is sometimes forgotten in sports. Been happy to hear it articulated today. Thank you so much. At this time, Co-President Catherine Honey will share a brief PowerPoint presentation, beginning with the AAUW of 1881 and taking us through some activities of AAUW Massachusetts up to 2021.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay.
Along with being AAUW Mass co-president with Chris, I also coordinate the Southeast Mass STEM Network. Each of us in our own way works to foster more equitable communities and more equitable workplaces. We have prepared a PowerPoint, AAUW Looking Back, Looking Forward, that highlights how AAUW's mission in 1881 and AAUW's mission today, 100 years later, is still to advance equity and ensure that we are prepared with the skills needed to lead and secure meaningful and gainful work. And let me just go here. Okay, AAUW, looking back, looking forward, and today we celebrate 140th anniversary of empowering girls and women since 1881. Presently, there's over 170,000 members advancing education and equity for women and girls through advocacy, education, philanthropy, and research. In the 1800s, many believed in the natural gender division. Women were considered physically weaker, yet morally superior to men, therefore best suited to the domestic sphere. When women worked outside, it was often in factories. Many claimed that it was unnatural and unhealthy for women to be educated, especially at the college or university level. It was taken as fact that higher education would interfere with a woman's ability to have children. Society also considered a woman's ambition excessive if they aspired to being doctors, engineers, or chemists. Fortunately for us today, Ellen Swallow Richards and Marion Talbot did not agree. They entered labs that were dominated by men, and they succeeded. Ellen Swallow Richards was the first woman graduate from MIT, an industrial and safety engineer, environmental engineer, chemist, and she was an MIT faculty member. Marion Talbot graduated from Boston University and MIT and became the Dean of Women at the University of Chicago. The two of them brought together 15 women from 8 colleges to a meeting in Boston, and the purpose was to create an organization of women college graduates that would assist women in finding opportunities to use their education, encourage women to attend college. They were looking for women to use their education to solve problems. They were looking to educate women for leadership. Ellen Swallow Richards, as she said in 1907, to whom shall we look more confidently for leadership and constructive work for social and national betterment than to the professionally and technically trained women now coming onto the stage. AAUW's first research disproves the theory that it's unnatural and unhealthy for women to be educated. The first research project that AAUW undertook was to demonstrate scientifically that this theory was incorrect and that education at any level did not interfere with a woman's ability to have children. Today I'm back in the 1800s. Today in 2021, AAUW still advances equity in education through a variety of ways. Through fellowships and grants, where they have granted over 115 million in fellowships and grants. AAUW fellows include Marie Curie, Dr. Nancy Grace Roman. Some of you may know of her as the mother of the Hubble telescope, and of course, District Attorney Rachel Rollins. Also, Dr. Mae Jemison, engineer, physician, and former astronaut. AAUW focuses on programs for members, college women and girls, including the National Conference of College Women, Student Leaders, Nick Whistle, Work Smart, Start Smart, and the STEM programs. They also offered to college universities a membership, and that is open to public and private colleges and universities and community colleges. And it gives access to staff, faculty, and students, all of the programs that AAUW offers. We all know that AAUW is an advocate, and over the years, they have supported many laws that impact education and equity for girls and women, including equal pay and Title IX. AAUW-MA members, as in other states, come together to advance equity at marches and at other events. In Massachusetts, as in other states, the branches provide opportunities to develop the skills needed to be leaders. For example, Attleboro has run in the past a Title IX program showing the impact on girls and women. Boston has celebrated the passage of the Equal Pay Act and has offered educational programs like WorkSmart. Canton has connected with families. They also make sure when they connect in the communities, they connect with girls, but also with boys. Cape Cod and South Shore were involved in Envision the Future, a 5-day residential STEM program for girls. They spent a week mentoring the girls, and then after creating replication programs that they could participate in and continue developing their skills. During that week, they provided engaging STEM activities, fostering collaboration. They introduced girls to global issues. In Melrose, Wakefield, they offer scholarships. One is a branch scholarship in memory of an AAUW member, and another scholarship is established by donations from family and friends of a long-time AAUW member. North Shore has involved itself in many initiatives, including Get Out the Vote and voter registration. South Shore has offered several STEM conferences for girls, and they also, like other branches, have funded Nick Whistle scholarships, which bring together student leaders from across the U.S. to engage in leadership training. Taunton, as other branches do, have hosted AAUW fellows to present and share what they have done with the support that AAUW has given them. Taunton has also participated and supported DEI programs. And Worcester has in the past honored women leaders. In this instance, it's Lucy Phelps, suffragette. And Lucy, along with Ellen and Marion, have created a foundation that has allowed us to advance equity. So we're very proud of all of the work all of the branches do across the United States as we honor all of these women that have come before us and continue their work. We do want to note, of course, Title IX has been mentioned several times today. And as you all know, according to Title IX, no person shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, be subjected to discrimination under any academic, extracurricular, research, or occupational training. We have decided that in 2022, since it's the 50th anniversary of Title IX, that we plan to have a program which will be hosted by the Boston branch to celebrate Title IX and how it continues to expand and protect opportunities for students to learn. And we hope you will be able to join us in the fall of 2022. And to end, we're looking forward to working with you to advance equity, offer programs that foster the skills needed to lead and work in a digital world, and celebrate the 50th anniversary. So our thanks to you from AAUW co-presidents, Chris and myself. Okay. No.
Catherine, it's good to be reminded of the impact AAUW has had since the founding and right up to today. And I'm sure some members saw some old and current friends in those slides. The branch has offered the opportunity at the grassroots level, at the local level, to support AAUW's mission of equity. And membership information is available in the resource in the chat along in that resources list. And I hope that you look into that. Thank you again, Catherine. And now we'll begin our panel discussion portion of our program. It's my pleasure to introduce our panel moderator, Carol Copeland Thomas. Carol is the founder of the Multicultural Symposium series, developed for the advancement of multicultural issues. Events she has hosted feature speakers from around the world, representing 6 of the 7 continents, a mini United Nations. She is a graduate of Emory University and Northeastern University, is active with the Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and is a lifetime member of the National Black MBA Association. Carol is chair of the Multicultural Committee for the Greater Boston Convention and Visitors Bureau. She's been involved in humanitarian efforts with women and children in Kenya and in southern India, and has produced a TEDx talk on facing fear, available on YouTube. And there's a link to that talk in the resource list, as well as more information about the Multicultural Symposium. And Taunton Area AAUW is proud to claim Carol Copeland-Thomas as a member of our branch. Carol will introduce each panelist, followed by a brief question period during which you are invited to post questions in the chat. Carol?
Thank you so much, Chris and Catherine. You are both wonderfully and proudly my co-presidents of my branch. I thank you so much. They have done so much work in putting this program together, and it's just come together beautifully. I am very excited in terms of who I've heard so far with Gloria Blackwell and our former national president, Patricia Ho, and also my soror from Delta Sigma Theta sorority, Rachel Rollins. So I'm excited, really excited. Now, I do a number of these programs, and I always like to look at the chat. So I want everyone to get busy and start typing away in the chat so that we can really have a two-way conversation. We have great panelists who I'm going to bring on board, but I want to know a couple of things. Number one, I want to know where you're located. There's 71 of us on now, so tell me where you're located. I am in Lakeville, Massachusetts, which is south of Boston, close to Taunton, and that's why I'm part of the Taunton branch. So I want to know where you're from, and tell me, how long have you been a part of AAUW, if you are in fact a member of your respective branch. We want to see how geographically, how widespread we reach today. Now I'm going to read this definition to you, but then I want you to top it. And I want you in the chat room to tell me what your spin is on this definition, or these two definitions. Thank you. Now the chat room is going. It says, though often used interchangeably, equality and equity are quite different. Equality simply means everyone is treated the same exact way, regardless of need or any other individual difference. Equity, on the other hand, means everyone is provided with what they need to succeed. So those are the technical differences between equality and equity. And in the chat room, I want you to tell us, what is your definition of equality or equity? And if you have any resources, put them right in the chat room. You'll be able to save the chat. It's savable. So before you leave our program at the very end, you can just click save if you have a laptop or a desktop, and then you'll be able to save it. So we really want to save this archival information with our 140th anniversary that we are celebrating. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't say, as we begin the panel discussion, that I am very, very thankful for Camilla Thomas, my great aunt from Columbus, Georgia, who introduced me in the 70s, way back before many of you were born, to AAUW when I was a student at Emory University. She was the first, as far as I know, Black member of the Columbus branch. And she was a feisty woman, school teacher, and a real trailblazer. So I am a proud member of AAUW, and I actually got my diversity start when I started my business back in 1987. I got trained in Washington, D.C., when they started their diversity initiative, and they sent me to different parts of the country. And I've been doing diversity with my own business for now 34 years ever since. So let's look at these words, equality and equity, And thank you so much, everyone. You've posted and all this great history that's here, and everyone who's putting their information in the chat room. Thank you very, very much. So I want to bring our first panel member on. We'll start from the youngest and then we'll go to the seasoned panel members. And that first person that we want to bring on is Sarah Looney. Sarah Looney, in 2015, you participated in Envision in the Future, a 5-day residential science, technology, engineering, and math program for girls ages 11 to 13 at Bridgewater State University. You were joined by 48 girls from 17 Massachusetts communities that formed Envision community teams to provide financial support for girls attending and committing to replicating elements of the Envision program for their community. In Weymouth, the community team introduced or included representative of the Weymouth Public Schools area businesses and AAUW South Shore branch. You also participated in the summer 2016 Envision the Future STEM Week program that Weymouth did as a replication of the 25th program. So the question is, why did you participate in not just one, but 2 STEM programs, and what did you learn from these experiences? Sarah Looney.
Thank you. I participated in these experiences because in 2015, I was only 10, 11 years old. So when I applied to go to Envision the Future at Bridgewater State University, I had only been learning STEM and science in school for about a year, but I absolutely loved it. And having it every day at school was just incredible to me. So as a 5th grader, I applied to go to Envision the Future and I was really interested in it. So when I was told, I was like, I would love to do that over the summer. So I got accepted, and there I learned about many different aspects of STEM that I had not learned about before in school, such as robotics. And then the next year, Mrs. Lynn Howard, AAUW South Shore branch member, who was involved in Envision the Future, she wanted to hold Envision the Future program at Weymouth. So I want to participate based on how much I enjoyed the Envision the Future program in the previous year. It was very well planned, and we had many different workshops, which included Weymouth Public Schools members and other professionals in the community. And we were able to take a field trip to Quincy College and go into one of their labs, which was an amazing experience for me.
Yeah, that's exciting. You were 11 years old when you first got involved in it. So, as an
Yeah.
11-year-old, I mean, I can remember being a Girl Scout and, TV and probably still playing with dolls and those kind of things. What was attractive for you to actually go on and join in? And were you afraid of maybe being laughed at or criticized because, oh, that's kind of geeky? You're going to be one of the geeky girls. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been considered a nerd, but I yeah, I just really enjoyed doing hands-on activities and learning about the world in ways that really had impacts in real life.
Wow. My goodness. In 2021, you were the key organizer for the STEM Conference for Girls and with Weymouth Public School, STEM Director Terry Fleming, Betsy Harris, Community Relations Liaison Betsy Harris, and Lynn Howard, 4th grade teacher and co-president of the AAUW South Shore branch. Hey, hats off for that. The superintendent of Weymouth Public Schools attended the conference with several educators and presenters. Let me ask you, why did you take the time to help organize the 2021 STEM conference? And what did you learn by actually doing that kind of organizing? Here you've gone from 11-year-old, 12 years old, and now you are a conference organizer. Talk to us about that, Sarah.
Yeah, so we've had the STEM conference for girls multiple times in the past. I believe this was the 6th year, but after its success in 2019, when I was able to first help Mrs. Howard start to plan it, I really wanted to have the event take place again because it was really awesome seeing girls interact with STEM. I mean, they came out on a Saturday morning and were eager to learn. So that for me was really, really important. And then as I approached my senior year, I realized I had enough experience to do this kind of thing on my own. And I wanted to leave something impactful in the STEM community before I graduated from high school. So having people like the superintendent who's actually appointed this year. So it was very, very nice of him to come out to the event. It was very important to have the staff from the schools come and see that the students were extremely eager to be learning outside of school. And it really hit home the value of STEM education because students are truly engaged in it. And it's important to make sure that we're engaging students in school and education.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. And talk to us about the capstone program. Tell us about the capstone project and what do you think is the value of students doing a capstone project? Tell us what it is first, and then what's the value of it.
So capstone is a year-long project where students sort of do a project on any topic of their choosing. Usually they'll do it on something in their career and they have to have a real-world application. So I think the value of completing a capstone project is that students are able to work independently on long-term projects for what's probably the first time in their life. So this prepares them for going to college or going to the workforce, whatever their plans are after high school. And additionally, it's based on the student's career interest, as I mentioned. So it also helps them to be prepared for that. Finally, it really lets students practice their written and oral communication skills individually instead of just volunteering their raising their hand in a classroom, as well as improve their work ethic. So I think it's really important to gain experience in that respect. And fittingly, my capstone research question is, to what extent does STEM education in Southeastern Massachusetts high schools affect young women's decisions to pursue bachelor's degrees in STEM disciplines? And through my research,
Wow, that
yeah,
sounds like a dissertation topic.
yeah. Through my I've been able to find evidence that there is an extreme imbalance between women and men pursuing STEM majors, and furthermore, that those women who do go into the programs are judged a lot more harshly than their male classmates. So I'm to address the problem of trying to address that problem in high school so that
Hmm.
women are more ready to go into these fields.
And sadly, your research probably would take you all the way to the tech field that takes place now and the disproportionate number of women, men to women in the tech field. And then you further break that out when you look at the BIPOC community, blacks, indigenous people of color, even worsened when you look at that. So Sarah, what's on the horizon for you in the future before you become president of the United States? What are you going to do in the meantime?
My plans after graduating are going to college and studying molecular biology. I want to earn a bachelor's degree and after that further my education with a master's degree. And my career goal is to become a genetics counselor, which is a healthcare professional who advises expecting parents and families who are at risk for genetic diseases.
Wow, a genetic counselor, is that what you said?
Yes.
Wow. Oh my. Now, fingers crossed. What's your number one school you want to go to? I see my fingers are crossed.
I applied to Harvard. We'll see.
Claim it. Claim it. Any other schools?
I also really like University of Connecticut.
Ah, oh, very good. Very good. Well, we're just proud of you, what you have done. You are a shining star and an example. Put some questions in the chat for Sarah. We're going to come back to you. Don't go anywhere. We're going to move on. Okay, adults, that's a hard act to follow. So now we move on to Jennifer Levitt. Jennifer is she's a manager process engineering at Sensata Technologies. As a process engineer with experience in a myriad of engineering fields, including automotive, aerospace, chemical, nuclear, mechanical, and electrical systems, in college, along with engineering, you studied dance. Isn't that interesting? And I want you to explain to us. I know what a process engineer is because my son-in-law is a process engineer, but a lot of people don't know what that is. So I want you. That's your first question. Next question: why is it important for individuals to explore their interest in the arts and humanities as well as STEM? And what are the connections? What are the benefits? That's a great question, Jennifer.
Thank you,
Take it
Carol.
away. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yes. So to give you a little bit of background on what process engineering is. So most people think of a design engineer who's going to design a product. So say like a bottle, they're going to design the shape of that bottle. As a process engineer in our new product development group, what I work on is how do you actually manufacture that bottle?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you take it from that idea of, yes, we can build one on a benchtop, but how do we take this and make millions of those a year? So think of it as that manufacturing strategy, and really figuring out, if you're trying to stick two things together, are you going to use glue? Are you going to weld it? Are you able to just make an electrical connection? So really figuring out how do you actually manufacture and make things.
Mhm. Tell us more about Sensata. Am I pronouncing it correctly, Sensata? Tell us more
Yes.
about Sensata.
Yeah, so with at Sensata Technologies, we build sensors and control systems. These sensors go into literally everything that you use. So think of anything that has like a motor in it. So your refrigerator, a coffee maker, a washing machine. All of these electronics are going to have some of our motor protectors in them. Or if you think of like a jet. So if you've ever walked into a jet and look to the left and look in the cockpit, you'll see all those switches. So we build mission critical switches that go in there. So the average jet has 1,500 of our switches on it.
Wow.
Specifically at Sensata, I'm working in a new group. The best way to think of it is it's almost like a mini startup within our larger company. And we're working on taking insights from our sensors. So not only putting sensors onto things, but how do we take that information and provide it as information, as value to a company or organization? So right now, we're making a network of sensors that goes onto semi trucks. And this way, things like tire pressure, tire temperature that could create faults or failures out on the road, that information is being sent back to the company and to their warehouses and to their maintenance crew, so they know when tires need to be changed ahead of time to prevent any failures out in the road.
Would that also apply to a truck driver? Is there a mechanism where if his or her tire is about to blow, they would get some kind of alert? Is that already in existence, or is that something that you're working on, Jennifer?
So as far as the specifics around that, I can't dive into the full specifics to the scope of what our algorithms can do.
Okay.
But as far as the drivers have a driver display, so think of it as like an app on your phone, and that will give them the live information about the tire pressure and tire temperature. And they do get certain alerts depending on the algorithms that the customers have requested.
Interesting. Recently I've been I've been doing some decluttering in my home office, and now I've gotten hooked on tiny homes. I don't know why, but I'm hooked on that now. So now I'm looking at these tiny homes and how they're basically mobile homes. They're on these wheels, and the tire pressure and all of that kind of information is important when you're moving these tiny homes from one place to the other. Do you guys get involved in that, Jennifer?
I'll say not yet. We're definitely the type of organization that takes our core technology, and as we develop technology, we'll span it across to other applications. So, right now in the semi truck industry and moving over to lighter vehicles as well. So you never know what the future will bring.
There you go. There you go. Amy Levin says, me too. She's hooked on those programs too. I bet you a lot of you watch those programs, very much so. And then thank you for the great comments that you're saying, giving to Sarah. Angela says, great job, Sarah. You have a wonderful and successful career life ahead of you. That is fantastic. One more question for you for this round. Jennifer, I wanted to ask you, you were involved in the development of the Envision the Future Replication Program that invited girls who attended the Envision program, which we talked about earlier, to participate in the Envision Replication Program. Who supported that program at Sensata, and what were the goals, and who was involved? Give us all the who, what, where, how, and when with that.
Yeah, definitely. So following the Envision the Future program, we did sponsor some of the girls to attend that program. And through that sponsorship, one of our commitments was that we were going to develop a replication effort. So there were three of us, Farzana Noor, Emily Haidaminas, and myself. And we basically reached out to Sensata about getting some funding to start a mentoring initiative. So this was called the Sensata STEM Mentoring Initiative. It was a 10-month-long mentoring program. And once a month for 2.5 hours, we had 10 girls that would come to Sensata. Each of the girls was assigned a mentor. And each of the sessions, we had a guest teacher. So this would be another Sensata employee who would come in and talk about a specific subject. When we saw the success of the mentorship program for that first year, we spoke with Sensata about getting funding to actually turn it into a 3-year long program, and developed curriculum where each month of each of the 3 years, there was a specific topic. So these ranged from your technical topics like physics, material science, chemistry, design thinking, robotics, engineering drawings, coding. And then each year it would build on that same topic during that same month. And in addition to that, we also saw it was very important to also provide some of those soft skills. So really thinking about, learning about yourself. So we had each of the students take the DISC behavioral assessment tool.
Yeah. Yes.
So this way they could learn about their own personalities and maybe how they might approach problems differently, but also learn about other people and how other people might approach problems differently. We also worked with them on presentation skills and power posing to really help them build their confidence and be able to present effectively and communicate. And then we also worked with them on personal branding. So how do you now take these skills that you've learned and really apply that to your brand and really showcase that to others?
That's great. That is fantastic. I'm going to swing back to Sarah. One question has come in from Nellie Wadsworth as we hear from Jennifer. Jennifer, great presentation. Thank you for giving me that information. And the question is, how can we bring more young women and girls to study STEM degrees? Sarah?
Yeah, that's absolutely what I'm trying to address right now in my capstone, because it's just so important. What we need to do is, like I said, I didn't have a science course until 4th grade. So for starters, we need to implement STEM education, especially there's mathematical courses, but we definitely need to include science and technological courses at younger levels. And additionally, I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with these, but there are STEM inclusive high schools popping up throughout the country where students are able to focus on STEM and the teachers sort of have a common goal together. So I think having a STEM inclusive high school or having teachers teaching in the same curriculum who have common goals, I think that's really important to having more young women becoming interested in STEM.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. And if you don't make it into Harvard, MIT has a door open for you. Absolutely. Nellie has a question for Jennifer, and she says, are there more men than women in your company? And if yes, how do you feel about working in a company with more men than women?
Excellent question. So I will say that throughout my background, I was actually very blessed that in my engineering degree, I was at Cornell University, and we had actually 50-50 in my chemical engineering graduating class between men and women. So
Yeah.
So I not gonna lie, it was a big shock for me because also my high school had some we specialized in STEM, and we also had a pretty good percentage of women. So it was a big shock for me coming into the workforce and in talking with some of the other women, they're like, oh, well, I've been experiencing this my whole life. And I was like, you have? So it was a little bit of a shock for me. But I also learned that that was, very abnormal as far as my beginning career. But what I will say, as far as working in a company where there are a lot of men, something that I found is there's definitely some advantages for women in those circumstances or those situations. I think one of the biggest things is any time that, you can sense a bias as you're coming into the conversation. The second that you prove yourself or you show that you're highly educated and you're able to hold your ground, you're able to effectively communicate, effectively solve a problem. The second that that relationship is established, I've felt that I almost gain more confidence or more appreciation from the men than I would if there was, I'll call it a neutral ground. But I definitely think it is something that it requires you to really have to prove yourself and show that you are able to hold your ground.
You know, what's interesting, what you're saying, Jennifer, I think back of what DA Rachel Rollins was talking about her experience at UMass on that lacrosse team, and how the men were mediocre. The women were probably all go-getters doing very well. Their programs got cut. The men, regardless of their skill sets, they were allowed to continue on. So all of that effort that had to go into restore that program just to prove you're equal to in this case the opposite sex, from that perspective, is, it puts the burden on a woman to prove herself over and over again that she is as good and she is sort of can excel in all kind of circumstances. I'm going to move on and let Juliana, we're going to bring her in the conversation now. And I'll say Juliana, who spells her name with one L instead of two like my granddaughter, but no issues at all with that. Juliana Schimmer? Scheimer, Juliana Scheimer, Biogen Rare Diseases and the AAUW National Conference of College Women Student Leaders. Love it. She was an attendee with that. You attended that AAUW program that I just talked about, which brings together college student leaders from across the United States to engage in leadership training. AAUW also offers STEM programs for girls, including Tech Savvy, a science, technology, engineering program for 6th to 9th graders, Tech Talk, problem solving and meeting women role models in STEM that helps middle school children to learn about the STEM careers, and STEM Ed for Girls is a virtual series of workshops that show how STEM skills expand career opportunities. Lots going on there. What are some of the benefits of attending a program like the one that you did for college leaders, and what did it involve, Juliana Scheimer?
Absolutely. Hi, Carol. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks so much for having me. So I am a proud graduate of the Nickel Soul. That's what we call it at our branch, at our AUW branch in the North Shore area. A lot of the programming when I attended in 2009 was around helping, young girls figure out what was after college. Are you going to go to graduate school? How are you going to go about your career? How are you going to negotiate your salary? So it really was preparing college students to think about their next steps. In college, I am a proud graduate of Salem State University. So I had the pleasure of working really closely with Nellie Wadsworth, who's here on the line. And Nellie has been a fantastic mentor my entire career, college career and life career since then. And really, when you get into a place where you have 400 other girls from across the country, and you are invited to think about what's next for you, and you are empowered to know that there is a next step for you. It isn't just get your bachelor's degree and that's the best you can do. There was a lot of inspirational workshops that really talked about you can do more if that's what you want to do. And here's how you can think about what more may mean to you, and here's the resources. So it was truly inspiring and empowering to leave knowing that there were opportunities for me to pursue.
Mm-hmm. This is a little off the grid, but I think it's appropriate to ask, how has life been at Biogen since COVID started? And you probably know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, they had a conference last year in February to the kickoff of COVID that introduced COVID to Massachusetts. Juliana?
Yes, I have to say Biogen has not been getting the best press this year. We had a lot of other hiccups with the Alzheimer's drug. You may have seen on the news as well. I actually only joined the company about 4 months ago.
Good answer.
I had nothing to do with it. It was not my decision. No, I'm just kidding. Prior to Biogen, I was with Takeda, which is also a pharmaceutical company.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can tell you today, there are a lot of protocols in place in terms of meetings. We were asked to go back to the office November 1st. Vaccination is mandatory. Masks are mandatory. Live meetings have all been canceled. So sales meetings. We usually do sales meetings with 200, 300 people. There's a limit of 25 attendees. So they're actually doing several meetings across the country to make sure we're not having a large not large group in the same room.
Mhm.
And if I'm being really honest, even though I wasn't at Biogen and it really, I had nothing to do with it,
Right.
it really was something that could have happened to any company. It could have
Mhm.
happened at Takeda. You know, they just happened to organize a meeting that had global attendees. They had someone from Italy that came in that had COVID that was not aware that that was happening. But the company has taken it very seriously. And I feel secure going into the office knowing that there are protocols in place.
Mhm. Thank you for that, and thanks for clearing that up. That's a, a relief, definitely a relief. I know that Biogen. I've been a part of other programs where Biogen's DEI program, diversity, equity, and inclusion program, have been in the forefront. I know that you have a very strong leader in that capacity. Talk to us more about DEI at Biogen.
Absolutely. I was also very surprised to learn the initiatives that are in place because when I left Takeda, Takeda was still trying to figure out what that meant. Biogen's program seems a little more mature.
Mm-hmm.
So not only it's your usual training, I know there's been a lot of talk about, hey, you do the training on biases and how you interview and what you can do to make sure you're really looking at candidates from a holistic perspective as opposed to hiring your friends. There's a lot of training for people managers, and it isn't just an annual training. We get together every quarter to really talk about, hey, how are you supporting your employees? How are you recruiting diverse talent? There's also a lot of discussion around that. You can't, when you create a job description, let's look at it from, the different lens that you could see. When you look at a resume, really try to understand the cues that if someone's member of a specific society, that may mean something about them. Like if I'm a member of the Latina Women's Society, that means I'm a Latina woman. And how that actually can help you in the workplace as opposed to being a hindrance. So I do think the training has been comprehensive. The dialogue has continued. It hasn't been, let's talk about it for 5 minutes, forget about it. There are groups that really continue the discussion around what equity may be for Biogen and how Biogen plays a role in supporting its employees.
I'm going to throw a similar question to you that we asked about Sensata. And the question is, have you looked at or do you know the numbers in terms of women in key roles in executive positions at Biogen versus men? Any
That is
sense
an
of that?
excellent question. Yes, excellent question. I'm not sure across the company, but I can share about my division. We are very privileged that the president of the US, the Biogen US, is a woman. The chief compliance officer is a woman. The VP in my area is a woman. So it's very evident that there's also this empowerment of women. I have had the opportunity to present to the president, and she was very supportive, and she's someone who's very assertive, very direct, but also very supportive and wants to see her teams grow. One of the things that I think is lacking that I want to address, they don't have a full mentorship program for women. And I think that that's a gap. I think if you want to see more women getting to leadership roles, you need to create a mentorship structure for them. I think women talk a lot about sponsors. You see a lot of articles that say women need sponsors. You need someone on the table
Right.
that can advocate for you. Sponsors don't fall from the tree, right? You have to go find them. And I think mentorship is a way that you kind of really create your network and you have advocates that can help you go find a sponsor and can really help you impact your career.
And that's a budget line item too. So when you're looking at that, I'm a diversity professional. So I've been doing, as I said, been doing this work 34 years. The money doesn't grow on trees. You have to have a budget in place to have these kind of mentorship programs to foster this sense of empowerment with women, et cetera. Juliana, what is your exact title? I know that you work for Biogen. I'm not sure if you're a researcher or give us a sense of your exact work title.
Absolutely. So my official title is Associate Director of HCP Marketing. HCP means healthcare professional. So I am on the commercial side, so I am in marketing. And my role is to actually educate physicians on a rare disease called spinal muscular atrophy. So when Sarah is a genetic counselor in just a few short years, when she graduates from Harvard, I am going to be working closely with Sarah to say, hey, Sarah, I'd love to teach you more about spinal muscular atrophy. It is a genetic condition. How can we support caregivers and patients who are diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy? Biogen has a treatment for it. It's the first ever treatment for this condition that was approved 5 years ago by the FDA. Prior to this treatment, babies that were born with SMA would die by age 2. There was no way around that. And this treatment has really allowed these patients to live. It's as simple as that. So it's really interesting. What I find interesting in my role is that I'm not selling anything. I'm really educating. I go to a physician and I say, this is what the disease is. You may see 3 or 4 patients in your lifetime with SMA because it's so rare. And these are the treatments available. Please go have a discussion with your patients about pursuing treatment, making sure they are on treatment. I also work really closely with a group we call key medical experts. They're also called key opinion leaders by some other companies. So the physicians that do a lot of research in the space, the physicians that have 30, 40 patients because they specialize in genetic or neuromuscular diseases, to get them to go speak on our behalf at national symposia. So when you have these really large medical congresses, they represent Biogen, speaking about the research that we do, speaking about how we can best support patients. So at the end of the day, my goal really is to help more patients be on therapy.
Before we go on to Dr. DeWright, I wanted to ask you also, you have your fan club in the chat room. Nellie Wadsworth is saying, go, Juliana, you will rule the world. I love that one. With such a rare disease, meaning not that many people who have that disease, and you providing the treatment for that, I'm thinking money now, thinking cost. Is it a very large amount of money that a patient has to pay, or will their insurance cover it? What's the situation on that, Juliana?
Absolutely. That's a great point, Carol. So the cost is high. I can't really sugarcoat that. It's a highly specialized, and not only this, but the way that the treatment is administered is through a intrathecal injection. So it's basically a spinal injection. So it isn't easy on the patient. It's 3 times a year that you have to undergo the procedure. It's expensive for the healthcare system. The patient doesn't cover anything. It really is covered. We work really closely with the payers to make sure that this gets added to the formulary, so payers pick up the cost of this. Now,
better.
We understand, yes, we understand that does have an impact on healthcare. This is the topic for a different meeting on the whole healthcare in the US and how there are so many gaps. But Biogen also offers patient assistance programs, and that's something a lot of people don't know about pharmaceutical companies. Takeda had a very strong patient assistance program, especially during COVID, when a lot of folks lost their insurance because it was tied to their work. If you call Biogen and say, I lost my insurance, there is a program in place that says we'll cover it. We'll cover a copay. We'll make sure you're good. We'll take care of your needs, because our goal is to make sure you're on therapy.
That's really good to know. And I hope that all who are here, we still have a really good, strong number who are here, take that information back to your circles and in your communities, because you may know someone who may fall in that category, and it would be just really valuable that they have the information so they can be treated accordingly. Thank you. Sandra Walker, who belongs to my church, says this is a wonderful reminder of our girls and women, our powerful leaders. Great job, everyone. Juliana, Sarah, Jennifer, keep it going. Bringing up the rear, we have Dr. Diana DeRuyter. She is the Dean of Faculty at Lesley University. That's where Sandra Walker is also. Member of the Steering Committee for AAUW Boston Branch. Dr. DeRuyter, you are a member of the Steering Committee, as I've just said. You are interested in women in leadership roles. and how they express themselves, and we receive, and the messages that we receive as children, and how they impact, and how girls, women and girls, see themselves based on those messages. This is a great question, and I'm glad that we're asking this. What messages do you think should be sent about leadership, and how early should we send these messages, and how will young children and students in elementary or middle school or high school receive these messages? Dr. DeRuyter.
Hi, everybody. I'm so pleased to be here, and I've just been inspired a million times over the past hour and a half. So I'm honored to be a part of this group. I also just want to put a plug out for the Boston branch. So as you said, I'm a member of the steering committee. A couple of my team members are here. Sandra Walker, Randy Korn. We're in the midst of reviving the branch, and we're going to be hosting the Title IX celebration next year. So keep an eye out for that. So thank you for the question. I do think a lot about the messages that we all receive. We're inundated by pop culture, and so I do a lot of thinking about pop culture. You know, sometimes it's easy to dismiss that as something that's fluffy and something that we shouldn't pay much attention to, but that's kind of the what makes it even more important for us to pay attention to. If I started a jingle that you probably haven't heard in 30 years, I'll bet you could finish it right away, right? You know, double,
yeah.
you know, any of these, right? These messages get in really, really deeply, and we don't even realize that they're there.
Things go better with Coke.
Exactly, right. And they go in on a really emotional level. And so the messages that kids get are going in there deeply. And so they're getting messages about women and leadership almost from day one. We've got, you know, message. I mean, Disney can be deconstructed in all sorts of different problematic ways. But, you know, if you think about Frozen and the women leadership there, what is her name? The Princess Elsa, right? That she is literally the ice queen, right? She's so powerful. She's so strong that she can't be with anyone for fear of damaging them because her emotions are too strong and overwhelming. You've got Ursula in The Little Mermaid, right? Who, as she gains power, she becomes monstrous and needs to be taken down. You have all these messages in the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, about women in leadership, and that when they get too high up in the leadership, I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but basically they die, right? The women explode, they sacrifice themselves, they are sacrificed by others, and a lot of their superpowers are often very emotion based, right? So again, this idea that women are too emotional to be leaders, because when it comes down to the crucial moment, they're going to explode in a ball of light, and everyone around them will be damaged. So these messages get in really, really early. So I think the more that we can address them as we see them, and it doesn't mean that we can't engage in pop culture and consume it and enjoy it and all of that, but we do need to be critically thinking and talking about the messages that we're receiving. Quickly, I was watching a rom-com with my mom last week, at The Proposal, which, you know, you may or may not remember, is the 2009 Sandra Bullock rom-com with Ryan Reynolds, and she was the boss, and he was her underling. And, you know, through a series of wacky events, they eventually fall in love and decide to get married. But what really stood out to me was at the very end, when they are finally in love and they're kissing and they're in front of all of their coworkers and everyone is clapping. The very last line of the movie, and it's not even, you don't even see a character who's saying it, but the very last line of it is, "Yeah, show her who's boss." Right? And so it was like this throwaway moment that was supposed to be this, the celebration, but these throwaway moments that just go in there unchecked and without conversation. These are the messages that become damaging. So one thing that I've done in my own practice with students, my students are often first-year students who have just come out from high school, and then I skip the middle part of college, and then I'm teaching students on their way out the door. Is I've started a policy of not accepting unwarranted apologies, a policy of not accepting unwarranted apologies. And so I talk a lot in my classes about how frequently women apologize for their space and apologize for for their questions and apologize for wanting information. And so
Even if they hit the chair, they'll apologize to the chair. Yes.
sure,
Yes.
absolutely, absolutely, right. And so in talking with students about how important it is to claim your space and to claim your voice. And so when a student, and again, it's most often women, when they raise their hand and they say, "I'm sorry, you may have already asked. I'm sorry, I forgot." I make them start over, right? I don't allow questions to begin with apologies. They send me emails that start with an apology. If I'm sorry to be disrupting you on your weekend, I write back to them. I said, "Thank you very much. Please resend this without the apology." Right.
Love it.
And so the thing is, even though I teach really important topics about trauma and psychology and gender and all of this, the message that I get from students years and years later, that what they remember from my classes is when they start to apologize for something, they stop themselves and wonder, oh, I don't need to apologize. I don't need
Bravo. Bravo.
those messages out all connects to leadership and not apologizing for having an opinion.
And they are absolutely emphasized in the movies, entertainment, what people watch. And now we're realizing, even with girls who are heavily on Instagram, TikTok, that's another workshop altogether. But if you put anything in there about I want to lose weight or I need to watch my food intake, then the algorithms will continue to send you those kind of messages and those kind of posts. And then you begin to question yourself if you are 13 or 14 or 15 years old. Dr. DeRita, any comments about that?
Well, I think it's true. And I think even though it certainly is, we see it a lot in the 13, 14, 15-year-olds, I can tell you as a 55, 65, we carry these messages and very accomplished and amazing women that I know and work with and care very deeply for. At the end of a presentation, will ask, did I look fat? Right. These sorts of things that these messages that are just so deeply ingrained and we're just so socialized to pay attention to those things that it makes it harder to put yourself out there in vulnerable ways when you're already feeling very vulnerable from the inside out.
Your work has just begun. A question has come in, and the question was, what can parents of young girls do to fight the culture that emphasizes beauty instead of empowerment? That's a great question, Dr. DeRita.
It is a great question, and honestly, I think about that. I've got a 16-year-old son, and I will just be honest. I am grateful to be raising a son, and not a daughter in today's world. I think the messages, I've got my own challenges of trying to make sure that he is a strong feminist, and that he is making the world a better place for everyone. But I think the messages that the parents of those who present as girls are scary. The world is not helping here, right? So I think the more that we can, as parents, label these things when we see them, and to call them out every single time, instead of and you're going to get eye rolls, right? So I know, right? And to push past the eye rolls, and to go ahead and give the messages anyway about, well, did you notice, what happened here, and did you notice how this character treated that character, and did you notice what she said in response and what she could have said, right? But to really label those and talk about them constantly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm going back to YouTube again, not tiny homes, but a lot of the crafting programs that I watch. And I listen to the women needing affirmation, even with their voice intonation going up. Hi, guys. I'm so glad that I'm here. And they'll make a statement and they're doing something that is really quite profound and maybe creative, but their voice will go up like that, needing that kind of assurance that it's okay, you're moving in the right direction. Do you watch that also? Or do you observe that kind of information, Dr. DeRita?
I observe it. I don't pay a lot of attention to the linguistics in that sense, because honestly, in teaching students
You're busy.
that age range of often 18 to 22, it started making me really crazy to feel like I needed to should I address the and the vocal fry and those sorts of things. So I honestly, I tend to tune them out just to
Got it. Got it. Marilee Hart made a great comment. She was referring back to the former governor of Massachusetts, Bill Weld. He always advised, don't explain, don't complain. Great. And I heard another saying that was, I'm not sure, I don't know the author of this, but it was like improvise now, perfect later. Because so often women have to have everything perfect before they can come out with a project, a book, or whatever. And guys will, they're all the way there, regardless of how many mistakes that they have in there. So get it out, get it out there. You can always have revision 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 as a result of it. And then Patricia Ho has said how refreshing and empowering for women to realize that we don't need to apologize for being present, for speaking, for having bold ideas. Thank you so much, Diana. Yes. So in closing, Dr. DeRita, will you give us one sentence that we can have as a takeaway? And I'm going to ask all of our panelists to do this. I think everybody, the chat room has just been blowing up. Love that. Save the chat, because I think somebody left some important resource information in the chat. So you can always hit save if you have either a desktop or a laptop computer. And I'm sure you can get the chat from either Chris or Catherine after the fact, but would love to have one sentence, your thoughts, your comments to leave us, to inspire us going forward. We'll start at the back first and then continue to the front. Dr. Diana DeRita.
oh my goodness. One sentence. Can it be a really long sentence?
No.
One sentence. The takeaway that I hope the message that I hope people take away here today is that we can make changes together. We can make changes together, and that we are a strong community and we are a powerful community, but only when we remain a community, right? So I would say we need to work. Oh, this is many sentences now, but work together and hear one another's stories and honor your own story as a valid and legitimate story to join the others.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Juliana.
Absolutely. I love to actually build on Dr. DeRita's note. If you don't find your community, if you are a STEM person, if you're a minority person, build it. Go build a community for yourself. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid. Don't wait for it. Make it happen.
I love that. And I just was the Zoom host for the Morehouse School of Medicine Healthcare Symposium earlier this week. And Judge Glenda Hatchett was our keynote speaker. And her message was all about write your own story. So that sort of tag teams with what you're saying, Juliana. Great. Jennifer?
I'm going to go along with a similar thought there, and really being true to yourself and knowing that at any point in time, you're being a role model for someone, even if you don't know they're watching, but really keeping that true to yourself. And if people see what is your passion, what is your love, what is guiding you, that will help them as well.
Awesome. Awesome. And then our budding college student, we're keeping our fingers crossed where she will end up. Sarah, what are your thoughts?
Building on what other people said after me, I think the most important thing to take away is that just because you're a woman, you can do what men do, the same exact thing that they do. You need to believe in yourself first.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Sarah Looney, Jennifer Levitt, Juliana Scheimer, and Dr. Diana DeRita. They've been a great panel today. I'm stimulated by what they've said. I hope that you are as well. And this gives us new marching orders in terms of the work that we have to do going forward. But certainly the pathway has already been established because of the great programming with AAUW. It's been a pleasure to be your moderator today. I'm going to turn this back over to Chris and Catherine. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, thank you, Carol, and thank you, Catherine, too. But thank you, Carol, so much. And you've, as usual, done a wonderful job guiding us through the thinking and the experiences of our panelists. We thank you, panelists, for sharing your experiences with STEM literacy, with AAUW programs, and giving us insights into what it means to be a leader and a trailblazer. We encourage you all to try to replicate the strategies and experiences that you have heard today. And so go out and help build the community. And thank you all very much. I have a few acknowledgements to add to my thanks here. And I want to thank Catherine, Huddy, and I would like to extend a big thank you to everybody, to our wonderful speakers, facilitators, and panelists. And thank you to Nellie Wadsworth, who has been our Zoom mass mistress in the background, to keeping everything going smoothly back there, and for putting the resources list into the chat. Please remember that. We want to recognize the AAUW-MA Planning Committee, including our host, the Taunton Area Branch. We want to again thank our business partners, the community leaders, and institutional collaborators who have helped make this event possible. And a reminder about that resource list. So please do save it in your chat so that you can refer to it later. There's lots of good information about all of the organizations and companies and that you've heard about today, and about AUW programs as well. And watch for our 2020 program celebrating the 50th anniversary of Title IX, which is going to be happy to have heard Dr. DeRuyter say will be hosted by the Boston branch. And again, look out for that survey. We appreciate your feedback so that we know the direction that we need to go forward in 2022. And once again, thank you all very much to our speakers, our facilitators, panelists, and thank you all for attending this afternoon. Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye. Nice to see you all. Goodbye, friends, old and new. Okay.
Happy Thanksgiving.